Hello and welcome to our Retire Early lifestyle. We hope you enjoy this information today. The retire and live abroad arena is so full of things that in comparison, some people may call a chick flick. What is a chick flick? It's a fantasy storyline that in its substance is not sustainable. That is to say, the story revolves around a subject matter which could entertain the possibilities of every common, everyday girl that would fulfill their utmost dreams and desires if everything that was in the story came true. The common girl, meaning of common means, that is to say average, gets the charming prince and he just happens to be the wealthiest man in town. Well, what about all the other girls? Well, there's plenty of men to go around, but the story is not about that, is it? If it branched off into those boring areas, then we could not entertain the utmost fantasy to get the handsome, rich, beyond your wildest dreams prince, and charming and handsome on top of that. But when we snap out of the dream state of the what could be and what we wish was true, we see it every day when we use the AI bot. The information is simply not true and is often rigged for biasness. Well, how's that? The only things we use the AI for now is things like population stats or something that can't be politically one-sided. Once our fantasy buttons are pushed, we make the decision. That's it. I'm moving abroad, they will say so matter-of-factly. And most Americans are really good at the planning, organizing, and making sure all of their financial ducks are in a row before moving abroad. The planning stages might go something like this. Number 1, researching where to move to. This may take years of careful consideration, and you'll probably change your mind several times in the process. Number 2, figuring out which visa to get. This process is different for everyone depending on your situation. 3, homeowners need to figure out what they will do with their home. Sell it, rent it, have family live in it. 4, will you ship all your belongings in a shipping container or move abroad with just the clothes on your back? 5, financial arrangements and planning. This is important. Once you're gone, so anything very detailed should be done before you move abroad. 6, saying goodbye to friends and family. This may be an emotional time, especially if you have children or grandchildren that you are leaving behind. Most expats find this out sooner than later. Okay, so we've spent 6 months to 2 years, maybe even longer, planning out everything with precision. We completed and organized our to-do list, and we methodically calculated everything to a T. All the logistics of moving abroad are done. Nothing to worry about, and we're ready to go. Bon voyage! I'm on my way to see the wizard. We're on the plane, just about ready to land in our new dream country for a new life in a foreign land. We're excited and giddy, and all we care about now is the adventure and all the fun we'll have living in the best place in the world, touted by our beloved Retire Abroad media and friends. People don't know this, but the logistics and planning stages of the move is the easy part. And that's because most people don't really take into account how their life will be or what they expect from their life in this new destination. What they see is what the rams or vloggers tell them, and that's all well and good except for the fact everyone is different with different priorities and arrangements for their lives. Did you know that the Retire Abroad media caters to the inexperienced traveler or the first timer? That's right, the people that have already lived abroad for a while. They don't go to the Rams to get information, do they? Unfortunately, we learned early on that the forums are also flooded with vested interests, and so the information you're getting is usually biased and lacking in sincerity. You usually have to get 3 to 5 opinions, and if one opinion is different and it stands out, you might want to consider that opinion with more thoughtfulness and do more research. Most people find out sooner than later they are actually a cultural misfit of their new land. Now, when we use this term, it has nothing to do with the character of a person. When we say misfit, we mean not suited for something, such as a round peg in a square hole misfit. Now, we all know the reasons why Americans repatriate to the USA, but there are underlying reasons for them. and you have to look at those reasons with a different perspective, okay? And so that's what we're going to do in this video. So remember, we're looking at this from a different perspective, more like the experienced hiker that always makes it out of the woods intact. Or does he? Number 1, language barriers. Most people don't care about learning the language. That's the least of their worries when they go abroad. Why do they not care about learning the language? Well, by golly, they've been told that the locals speak English and it won't matter. Here we go. Only speak English? You'll get by easily in these European countries. Best cities in Italy for English speakers? Do you need Spanish to travel to Spain? Locals in Spain speak English, so you can get by with only English. Do most people in Greece speak English? Most places you would be able to get by in big cities with just English. Do they speak English in Europe? Tourists can generally travel and ease across Europe communicating in English. What does Europe talk? Yes, English is spoken in France, especially in bigger cities like Paris and Bordeaux. Do they speak English in Germany? If you're in a big city like Berlin or Frankfurt, you will be able to find plenty of locals who speak near perfect English. You'll also find a lot of Germans who may not be fluent but can manage enough to get by. And just for the fun of it, I asked AI about it, and they said in many larger cities across Europe, such as Amsterdam, Copenhagen, and Brussels, English is widely spoken, making it easier for travelers to communicate without knowing the local language. Well, there you go, without knowing the local language. So we move abroad thinking everyone, at least in the cities, speaks English. Bonk! Reality, folks, the locals do not want to speak English, and they don't like to be told they must speak English. This is a fact. When we put on their shoes, we find that the locals are also intimidated and shy to speak a different language other than their own. The locals want to speak their own language. Isn't that something? Don't count on the locals speaking English just for you. Of course, some will do it if they have to. The Rams and Vlogger Gang have aired on this one. Since when should we expect the local people to cater to our language when it's their country? Really, what the Rams are doing is trying to come up with solutions for all of the expat challenges, but in doing so, it's doing a big disservice to the local population. Number 2, will I be able to make new friendships when I move abroad? Well, that's up to you. When you move to a foreign country, you will notice the locals are congenial and everything, but they're kind of standoffish, and that's how it is being a foreigner in a foreign land. We learn a few phrases such as good morning and thank you, and we smile at each other, but that's the extent of the interaction. So what I'm saying is you will have to be the outgoing one, or else you will never make friends with the locals. When I put on their shoes, I see they already have their own friends, and you're just an outsider to them. Why would they want to be friends with a stranger? Once you get over that hump, you'll be able to do something about it. This is a big reality. American expats are easy to make friends with, and that's why these expat cliques get bigger and bigger as they all stick together like glue. But sometimes there is infighting amongst the expat groups. There are expat hangouts just for expats. There's expat restaurants, expat neighborhoods, expat condo complexes, expat grocery stores, expat cheese sellers, etc. We know this very well. This is just another reason why moving abroad forever is not sustainable for most expats. We move to another country and simply ignore the local folks as if they aren't there. We do it all the time when we move abroad. But doesn't that seem strange? And then we wonder why they call us arrogant. It seems like Americans think they are superior when they form groups and patronize their own stores and neighborhoods. Of course, we know better than that and wouldn't call it arrogance. It's more like more convenient, easier, and less intimidating to stick with the other English-speaking Americans or Brits. Moving on to number 3. Will I fit in with the people, or will I stick out like a sore thumb? No matter what we do or how we dress or how much we look like them or how good we speak the language, you still appear and behave like a foreigner. But it's still a good idea to blend in as much as possible so as not to stick out like a sore thumb. It's just the respectable thing to do. We also know that talking loudly in English is a no-no in most countries because you stand out and you behave as if you're the only people in the room. It also makes you a target of price gouging for the greed mongers and petty crime for the bad apples. Moving on to number 4. Will I be able to adapt to the new culture? There are so many variables on this subject, but probably not. We have to adapt to all the differences or else we will not be happy. You moved abroad for a better life, but you have to make it better for yourself. It's not going to be easy either. What do you want and need from your new country? If you're not getting your personal needs and preferences met, that means you are not adapting well. But when we move to a new country, we can't expect the country to cater to our desires, and that's the point. This is where we're like a round peg in a square hole. To make it truly work, we have to transform our round selves into a square so we can feel at home and at ease, and most people don't and won't do that. There are actually only a handful of good reasons why anyone should expatriate from their own familiar land where they bask in their own little comforts and economic security to move to an unfamiliar land and have to reinvent those little comforts and economic security the best we can, even if we can reinvent them. Will I like my new life in a different country? Most foreigners never really fit in, and the reality is it's because they flock with their own compatriots, and these expat groups eventually end up creating their own culture and their own economy within a culture and economy. In essence, many expats live in another country but don't really integrate within that country's culture.
But the underlying issue with this scenario is that there's a fear factor. We've said this in articles. There's a confusion going on in the retire abroad, live abroad community. They say they want to move abroad permanently or retire abroad, that's what that would be, but then they act like a tourist. If you move from Michigan to Nashville, Tennessee, right, you might at first be really excited about all the touristy things. But again, after a year, 2 years, whatever, it just becomes part of the landscape, right? My point being is that when you move abroad, and this may be the result of the attitudes that are cultivated by inexperienced retire abroad, move abroad community, is that it fosters a kind of idyllic, paradise, and therefore we would call it the rose-colored glasses syndrome. And because of that, people tend to not understand what they're doing. And the underlying thing is that fear factor. Why would you move somewhere that you're so uncomfortable that you have to confine yourself to being around other tourists? Is that really sustainable? The decision is not rational to pay 2 or 3 times as much, even if you can afford it. It's not rational. There's an underlying issue going on that's not normally addressed. And I'm going to call it out, and I'm going to say it's fear. Fear. That's what it is. That's what it really is. Not really moving abroad, retiring abroad to be part of the culture. So there's a certain segment within this group. They're going abroad, but they're gonna stick around their compatriots, people that can speak English, and in so doing, they create a completely separate culture and economy within a culture and economy. Okay. And so, of course, what that does is to those of us that want to go abroad and just blend in and be like part of the culture, it just makes it a lot more difficult because of the foreigner profiling and cultural profiling. Tourism it's by design very superficial. It's very superficial because it's understood you're just there for a very short time. Everything about tourism is the complete opposite of retire abroad and move abroad permanently. If we can have a rational conversation, you will agree that yes, it's a completely different animal. because it isn't rational to behave in touristic ways when you move somewhere permanently. So, I mean, you don't do it at home.
So that's what is meant when people say everything changes after the honeymoon period. The honeymoon is like being a tourist in your new land. You're on vacation and having the time of your life, but after a while, the tourist thing wears off. After the honeymoon is when most people learn the grass isn't greener on the other side of the fence like they've been told. It's just different. And once the excitement of the honeymoon period wears off, they start noticing some of those differences as flaws, and is why moving abroad is not sustainable for most of us, and we are likely to return to familiar territory. It's kind of funny, but in the end, Americans spend more time preparing, organize, and planning their trip abroad, and they do it very well, by the way, than the actual time they spend living in the country they move to. Bottom line, many expats end up returning home to familiar territory, or they move to a different country and try the same thing all over again in a different country. That's what we have for you today. Been sharing this information for years, and it is even more evergreen than it was 10 years ago. Hope everyone stays safe, be blessed, and bye-bye.